Welcome everyone, Adam Stark here, and forgive the noises you might hear in the background. I'm very busy, but today what I want to talk about is something I think about all the time when I'm watching movies and TV shows, are different examples of how time is used in movies and TV shows, cartoons, everything. How it's used in media. And I wanted to just talk about it. I want to see what everyone else's thoughts are. I want to know if anybody agrees with me or if anybody has their favorite examples of it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, just to say this right before we even start, I am not going to end this video by saying my favorite version of it. I don't have a favorite. That's not what this is. I'm simply talking about what I think are my favorite uses in all the examples of time used as in time travel, time loops, time lapses, or changing of time, and etc. I'm just curious what people think. I have this obsession with time, with something that if a movie that might otherwise be dull or lackluster or seemingly not worth my time, but it happens to have something unique about it, such as a time loop, then I'm immediately curious and I will check out that film because it does that. It's almost like a cheat code, if you will, because if I know they're going to do something with time, I'm very curious how this film is going to do it. So I want to know. Therefore, I will actually be enticed to watch it and find out. So we can start with the very obvious examples that I feel like are most popular, that most people know. Time travel, of course. I think doesn't need any introduction, but I don't think any other franchise goes without saying, such as the Terminator series. I mean, now me personally, I've actually never seen Terminator 3 Judgment Day. I've never seen it, so I can't go off of that one. But the first two films, what do we have, of course? We have an incredible, gripping, brutal story, entertaining. I like it more for the action than the time element itself. I might go as far as to say the time element isn't even needed, but it is a main part of the story. I mean, when I say needed, I mean needed as in for me to enjoy it. But when it gets to the point of they use time travel in Terminator 2, for example, because they need to save somebody. So how do they do that? They find out that someone is being sent back in time to kill young John Connor before he grows up to be an adult, to be what he is destined to be, of course, which is a prominent leader in their destruction. So what do they do with that source material? They say, well, we're going to send our own back, and this one's going to be a bodyguard, basically. You know, we all know this story. I know this has been around for decades now. I understand that. I'm not telling you anything you probably don't already know. But I'm curious, does that time element enhance the film? For people, I'm very curious what people think. To me, it does. I love the idea of let's see what we can do with time. Instead of a simple linear protect this guy at all cost story, they had to, what's the word, enhance it, I guess you could say, by giving us that element of this is only going to happen now because the time and history has changed. Something that we will never see in real life. This will never happen. The closest version of that we will ever have in real life, and it's a scary thought, of course, but is if you believe something about someone your whole life, let's say a relative or something, and then decades later you find out that was a lie, then your whole perspective could change. You could say, what do you mean? You know, that man's my hero. I've loved him ever since I was 4 years old. He's one of my biggest role models. And then you find out, like, I don't know, he was a complete liar or something, or his stories were all fabricated hoaxes or something along those lines. Now, that doesn't have nothing to do with time travel, but of course, but that's the closest thing I can think of is you spent your life to that point in time, a long time portion of your life, in basically engulfed in this person's greatness just for it to change, because now all of a sudden you find out this isn't what it was. It's not real. That's the closest thing I can think of, and that's just going off the top of my head right now as I'm recording this off the cuff. But so we'll never experience things like that. You have somebody, you find out, oh, guess what? Did you know that in the future, such and such person in your life is going to be this? That doesn't happen. That's not a thing, obviously. And so I think that's why it captures our attention and it grips us so much. So that's one example of it. I'm curious what other people think. I want to know in the comments, what do you guys think? Does that enhance the story personally? Does it? Or do you think it just is what it is, but it wasn't necessary? Or are you neutral about it? You're like, yeah, I guess it's needed, but it doesn't necessarily come off as something I need. You know what I mean? Could be something like that too. Now I'm going to jump into what I find is time loops. Okay, so this is interesting. We all know the most famous example, probably the most famous example, is Groundhog Day, with a movie with Bill Murray. So Groundhog Day, the man wakes up. Every day he wakes up, it's the same day. It doesn't change. It's the same date, and he wakes up the same way in the same room in the same position, and the date is the same. It doesn't advance forward to the next day. So what happens there? Well, he gets to do the experience different and try new things because his memory stays intact. So even though these are repeated occurrences, his memory is actually capable of understanding that this is happening while it's happening consciously. So Bill Murray's character, of course, what does he do? He tries new things. And because of that, sometimes he taking advantage of knowing everybody's predictable actions because of seeing them repeatedly, he decides, okay, this time I'm going to be rude about it to these people. This time I'm going to be extra generous, or this time I'm going to scare them by predicting everything that they say and do and use this knowledge to my advantage and kind of scare them, be like, whoa, how could you possibly know I was going to say that? That kind of effect. And I think my favorite part of the movie, personally, is he makes a fun memory with his love interest. And when he does this, it's his like favorite version of this time loop, right? Well, then he tries to do it again later. It doesn't work. Wait a minute, it doesn't work? And I think that's kind of the cool part about it, is even though he had this fixation on it worked, so I want it to work again, because I know it worked before, so therefore it has to work every time, and he finds out he's wrong. I find that aspect fascinating. I think that's where the movie shines the most to me. That's just my opinion. I want to know other people's opinion. Do you like that? Do you think that's a good part of the movie? What kind of message do you think that sends? These are the kind of deep thoughts I have about it. Another time loop movie example is there's a movie called Before I Fall, 2017. It is based on a novel, and from what I understand, there is drastic changes from the novel itself. This movie, I liked it. I have some problems with it. I think some of the acting is just horrible, frankly. I don't know how to say it nicely, but that, and I gotta say, unfortunately, the soundtrack is atrocious. It is the worst soundtrack I've ever heard, I think, in a movie in my life. Sorry, but I gotta be blunt about this. The soundtrack takes me right out of the experience, and sometimes it's hard to look past that kind of stuff. But if I put all that aside, okay, so this is the Groundhog Day time loop event, but it's in a completely different perspective. It's obviously 21st century, and it's with a young girl instead of a middle-aged man, Bill Murray's character. It's a little girl in high school, so young woman, and she wakes up to the same thing every day, and her little sister is annoying her, and she's getting on her nerves, so she's taking her anger out on her sister. She passes by her parents in the kitchen on the way to seeing her friend, who this other girl and these other girls that are her friends pick her up every day, and she goes to high school. Well, she goes there, and all these events happen, and blah, blah, blah. They end up at a party, this crazy house party. And at this crazy house party, things go left. Some girl that they have all been bullying and making fun of the whole time, she shows up. Well, the ringleader girl of their group, she just lambasts her and just screams at her, spills a drink on her, treats her like absolute garbage. And that girl ends up running away from the party. And it's like, oh, okay, we really showed her kind of thing in her own victorious way of feeling dominant over the situation, because she's going to stick to her friend's side, you know? So she does that, and she wakes up, and then she's so confused. She's like, why is this stage, why is this happening? Why is everybody doing everything like they did yesterday? So she's also conscious of the time loop situation. So she's like, huh, why is this happening? Okay, because of that phenomenon, as the film goes on, and because this is a different type of film, it's not a comedy like Groundhog Day is, and I'm not trying to compare the two. It's a stupid thing to do, but just for the sake of time loop movies itself, I just find it fascinating how at least you could say they took different directions completely with this idea. So our main character, she goes and she eventually she plays it where, kind of like in the one Bill Murray version, where she knows every single thing that's happening, every single moment that the other people are about to do. She says it before it happens, and it kind of freaks them out. Like, how did you know I was thinking that? How did you know I was going to say that? Like, what? Like, what's going on here? Kind of freaks them out. And then she also gets very. This is where I think the film shines to me at this moment. Then this one replay, she gets very angry, extremely brutally honest with herself. Her raw emotions comes out, and she is dark about it. She is unfiltered, uncensored, extremely brutally angry. She is like swearing at her parents, saying horrible things. She is mocking her own friend circle for the things that she doesn't like about them and how toxic they are, and she's being toxic right back to them and trying to hurt them. Like, she's trying to hurt everybody, and then she goes out on a limb and ends up having sexual relations with her boyfriend in the movie, and it doesn't go well. She thinks being this evil, angry, volatile, rebel kind of person, this time in my, I don't know what number of time loops this has been in the film, but whatever, it's been too many, right? And she thinks, okay, now I'm going to do that. I'm pissed off. I'm sick of this happening. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. And it doesn't go well for her. She ends up crying by the end. She ends up crying. It doesn't work. Then eventually, she does something completely different. One of the time loops, she loses her friends because she takes out her anger on them. And some of them deserved it, honestly, but I'm just saying that's what she does. Now, is this a mistake? Is it not? Maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe she needed to do this to learn something about herself and to look inside of herself, and maybe to see that she's becoming like the person that the leader of her group is, and that kind of evil, malicious person. So there's so many aspects about it that it allows you to see one person change so much, and how it's kind of, and this is just my opinion, in these time loop movies, subliminally, like, hey, in any given situation, there's 100 ways you could handle it. Kind of like there might be 100 time loops, there might be 100 ways that the director shows this day, right, or something. I don't know, it's just my opinion, but that's what I kind of like about it. I kind of wish that was shown more in films, and I do appreciate that part about this film. in itself. So anybody see that film? What did they think? Now here's another time loop one. This one takes a different approach, and I like this because instead of when they wake up, they remember and they realize that this is the same day, and they wake up and they get angry, or they go get confused, one of the two, sometimes a mix of both. And what do? They end up saying, okay, well now I know everything because I've already did this day, so now I'm going to use that to my advantage for better or for worse, or to gather information or to screw around all day or whatever. Instead, you get something completely different with this one, and this is the X-Files. Yes, the X-Files. I have not seen too many episodes of this show. Personally, I am not an X-Files expert or anything. I don't have anything against the show. It's just I've only seen a few episodes, and so it is what it is. But my favorite one so far, in my limited scope of the program, there's an episode, it's just called Monday. It's literally just called Monday. So it is a time loop. The main character, he goes and wakes up, and he ends up having to go to this bank. At this bank he goes to, there is a guy with some guns and a bomb strapped to his chest. The guy tries to rob the bank, and the bomb goes off, it explodes the building, and they do a good job showing that explosion as well. They actually show it from several angles. They show it, like they filmed it rigged with several cameras, and then they show all the windows get blown out and the structure getting destroyed. So it's actually really cool, but that's nothing to do with the point of time I'm trying to get to in this video. I'm just giving them props. But so what I like about it is, so when he wakes up, he doesn't know. He doesn't remember, hey, I'm in a time loop. This happened yesterday. So they actually did something different with it. Okay. So that being said, there is another character, not a character in the main character in the show every show. No. This is a one-time character just for this episode. And this woman is the girlfriend of the man that straps bomb to his chest and goes and blows up the bank every single time at the end of this time loop. So this woman is actually conscious of the time loop. So this is what makes this interesting. The main character whose perspective you're seeing of the time loop is not conscious of it this time. It's a different character that's conscious of it. So you're seeing it from the perspective of not the main character for once. It is the main character of X-Files, don't get me wrong. So I know I probably just made that sound very confusing. But so this woman, the girlfriend of the killer, of the terrorist, if you will, the suicidal terrorist, she experiences the time loop. She waits outside of the bank every day during this time loop. She is the one that tries everything to prevent it, everything she can, and you don't know this until later in the episode. But anyway, she tells detectives, she tells police officers, there's a bomb that's going to go off, and they say, well, how do you know that? What's your information? And like, are you sure? Like, they don't do like what she would hope they would do ever. And then it comes out later in the episode. This is a part I think really shines. Is when finally our X-Files main character starts catching wind that this is happening, he asks her, not in my words, I'm butchering this, I'm just going off of my memory, of course, but he basically kind of asks her, like, have you tried to prevent him from doing it? And she said she has tried everything to prevent him from doing it. The guy is making not enough wages to get by. He feels stressed out. He feels like his life is ruined, so he wants the super shortcut, but he also clearly doesn't care if he dies because he just wants it. She said she's even hidden his keys, hidden his everything. Like, she's tried everything you could think of that would make this day not occur, ending in an explosion, but it does no matter what she does to prevent it every time. And every time it happens, the bomb goes off one way or another. the building blows up, and then she wakes up and redoes the day over and over and over and over and over again. So it's a time loop in a different way, and I appreciate the fact that we get these in different variants in media. I like that they're not exactly copying each other, like sticking to the same exact precise formula every time. That's what I find so fascinating about time loops anyway. And so what ends up happening is he does, our main character, X-Files guy, he does figure out that this is a time loop, and that what this boyfriend is doing is putting her through hell by having to relive it every single day. And his partner, the other main character, is so confused when he says that. She's like, I do not understand. Because in one of these time loops, he doesn't go to the bank, she does on his behalf. And yeah, all these things. It's so unique to see how one day she does something different, one day he does something different. One day he's directly confronting the man with the bombs and the guns, and it still doesn't work. It still explodes. It still kills them all. So no matter what happens, it ends in complete disastrous bloodbath of a failure. So what I find fascinating is how they ended it. Spoiler, but what they did was, so after finally him realizing, okay, I'm starting to figure out this is a time loop, he's starting to become conscious of it, and as he's talking to the girlfriend of it, and as she's the one realizing, no matter what happens, the bomb goes off, everybody dies, nothing changes, and then I wake up again and have to relive this hell every day. That's what happens every single time. So because of this, because this is a constant failure, she ends up going in with her psychotic boyfriend, and then she ends up getting taking the bullet and getting shot instead of him. She dies instead of him. He finally feels that remorse or whatever, that this wasn't what I was supposed to do, and I feel bad now, and I regret this, and I shouldn't have done this, and etc. All those things that you should have been feeling all this time. So with feeling this, finally getting through to him in the worst of ways, by in a literal sense, sacrificing his own girlfriend, it finally stops. And because it stops, the time loop stops. And it was a good ending. It was a good episode. It's called Monday. Great time. Really, I thought they really did an excellent job. That's just my opinion, man. Okay, you disagree, that's fine. I'm just telling you my opinion. That's what I thought. Okay. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is a time loop film in a different sense. Yes, a different way once again. This movie is called Source Code. This came out 2012. Stars Jacob Gyllenhaal. I am a fan of him. I think he is an incredible actor. He's one of the best. I like that he is never afraid to take diverse, crazy roles, and sometimes roles that clearly are not going to win you big awards in Hollywood. And I don't care about awards in Hollywood, but it's more refreshing to me when you get actors that are like, I don't care if this sounds like a good movie, I want to be in it. So this man that Jake Gyllenhaal plays, he wakes up, he's in a train, and as the train's traveling, he's talking to this woman across from him that clearly loves him very much, but subtly, not over the top at all, but just very subtly. Her acting was incredible too. She did a great job showing signals that she likes him, but without coming on so strong. Like, it can be done in a corny way, or it can be done in a realistic, like, shy kind of lovey-dovey way, and that's what they did in this movie. I'm getting way off topic. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I'm working and I'm tired at the same time and I'm trying to record something. Anyways, so he's on this train. He's talking to her, and everything's going. He doesn't understand why he's there, and he's very confused. She keeps calling him the wrong name. She keeps calling him Sean, and he is so confused. He's like, okay, whoever you are, you're very nice, but I'm not Sean. I don't know why you keep calling me that. So it starts out with this confusion. The train gets to a certain point, a bomb blows up, everybody on the train dies. And all of a sudden he wakes up, he's in this dark terminal thing, and he's very confused. He doesn't understand where he is. He doesn't understand how he got there. And somebody on a screen, a computer screen, is asking him questions, and he's fighting back by saying, well, hold on, where am I? What is going on here? And anyway, so I'm not going to get into too much about that stuff. I'm just going to stick to the time-lapse, quote-unquote, part of this movie, because that's what this video I'm making is about. So he is being put into a simulation of 8 minutes before this bomb goes off, and everybody dies. Every single time the bomb will go off. And they even tell him, they say to Captain, his name is Captain Stevens, and they even tell him, they said, listen, don't try and save people. No matter what you do, they're gonna die. It's because this simulation is actually a new program we made called Source Code. And it actually, what it does is, it goes into a real-life simulation of an event that just happened. So this bombing happened in real life, quote-unquote. And they're saying, we have a new technology here that will allow us to find out who did it, who is the bomber. So you have to keep trying until you find who did the bombing. Use any methods necessary, use force, interrogate people, do whatever you need to do. But 8 minutes every time, 8 minutes, that bomb will go off. And everybody will die, no matter what. And so don't worry about those people. They're already dead in real life. So what you need to do is figure this out, who did the bombing. Now, he gives them so much pushback because he's still trying to figure out, like, why are they asking me to do this? Why me? What do I have to do with this? And where am I in real life when I'm not in this simulation? Etc. I don't need to get into that now because that's not really what's important to this discussion you and I are having about time in movies. But so this one's different. So it's a simulation, quote unquote, but it's based on a real event. But he takes the life of this teacher named Sean, and he gets to pretend to be him, but on this train in the 8 minutes at a time, and you get to see it several times over. So just like in other time loop movies, he knows every little nuanced thing that happens. He knows one guy's going to drop some wallet. He knows one girl's going to spill coffee on his shoe right away unless he moves his shoe over. He knows that the girl sitting across from his phone's going to go off and it's going to be her ex. He knows this because he's experienced it so many times. So he's very pissed off and he's impatient and he's being very erratic because he knows it's not real and it doesn't matter. So he's, telling people, hey, what are you doing with that? And he punches people in the face. It gets really absurd, and I'm not mad at it. I'm glad that they took this in wacky directions. He just starts like punching people in the face and he trying to be like, are you the one bombing the train, basically, like taking it in absurd directions. But you have the liberty to do it. That's what I love about media and art and stuff. As an artist myself and a writer myself, I take liberties all the time. So I think it's cool to see they took that kind of a route. And so the point is, no matter what he does, the bomb goes off, everybody dies, and he sees that. Well, eventually, he finds out who did it. He actually finds the bomber themselves. He actually finds them, follows them off the train to see it escape, and he sees the train blow up in the distance because he failed to get the guy or whatever. So he's like, okay, but at least he got the guy. He has the guy's full name, and he says exactly where his van with his terroristic bombs and stuff are, and he tells the people when he's not in the simulation, he says, here you go, this is who did it, and this is where he is, and everything. So they end up in real life, not in the simulation. They find the van, they find the terrorist, they stop him before he does another attack, and they call the mission a success. They go, oh wow, look at this, with this source code thing, we did it. We are able to prevent future things because we can look back into the event using this program, and then we can solve it by having one of our people play as another person, one of the victims, and then go to lengths that we couldn't go to, basically, to discover who else who we can find out that we couldn't normally find out because we weren't there at the time of these attacks or whatever. Okay, but then it takes another direction that I really liked. I thought this was really interesting. He says he finds out that he, in real life, is dying. He is barely breathing. He barely has a heart rate. He is dying, and that's why they're rushing him to keep going back into the simulation. That's why they're giving him little to no information. So he says, listen, and I'm skipping it. I'm butchering the story. I'm just skimming it to get to my point of the time parts of this aspect of this that I like. And so he says, hey, listen, I know I'm going to die. I accept it. That's fine. I am simply asking you to do this, okay? Put me back in one more time. I want to save all these people. And they're like, dude, it's a simulation. They all die, nothing changes. And he goes, listen, I don't care. It's for me. Do it for me, okay? Soldier to soldier, do it for me. I want to be able to save them. And then I know I'm going to die anyway. So I just want to be able to do this one time where I save them. What he does is he goes back into the simulation, and when he does it this time, because he knows every nuanced, specific detail of everything, he knows this world. He's like a puppet master now because of all the times he's ran this 8-minute simulation. He quickly woos, romances the girl so he can, get her as a date or whatever, and he kisses her and everything. He gets the terrorist. He quickly handcuffs him to the train. He gets on a phone and he calls 911 and he says, I am the terrorist and I am on this train right now. I'm handcuffed to the rail and I have a van with all these bombs in this parking lot right here and whatever. So he's completely snitching on himself to make it like utterly clear. Here I am and here's the evidence and here's my vehicle and okay. So he did all that. And then when the 8 minutes is up, this time, unlike every other time in the simulation, the bomb does not go off. Unlike every other time where it goes off, inevitably it just happens. This time it does not, and before the 8 minutes are up, he uses a phone. He sends an email to the officer that has been commanding him to hurry up and find the bomber in the simulation. He sends an email and he says, listen, if you're reading this email, you guys invented this thing called source code. And I am somebody that you have been using source code on, and I'm here to tell you that it works, but it works better than what you think it does. I am now living beyond the time of my life or whatever, and he explains it. And so he ends up living a whole new life as this Sean guy now. And he lives a full life outside of this bombing now. So instead of dying as the soldier that he was slowly dying as and about to die as permanently in real life, now the simulation changed the course of time in real life. So I found that really fascinating. That's a completely different direction that they decided to go with it. And I think it worked. I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. But I'm curious what everyone else thinks, of course. What do you guys think? Did you like that? Did you think that was cool? It is science fiction, after all. So, I mean, you're allowed to take kind of crazy liberties. But just out of curiosity, did you like that? Did you dislike that? Do you think that didn't work? Did you think that's bad, what do you call it, logical fallacy or anything? Or do you not care? Is this just not your kind of film kind of thing, So, all right, now I'll talk about another version of time, is time in another way. How do I even describe this with words? I'll say this. Okay, this is where my obsession with time started. There was this show is brilliant. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It doesn't mean I like every episode. I don't, obviously. Some of them are really bad, of course. But when the show is good, oh, it's good. And it's awesome. The show, The Twilight Zone, and I am referring, of course, to the original. The Twilight Zone reboot was absolutely garbage, a waste of time. So I'm not talking about that 2019 reboot garbage program. But the original one, of course, from the late 50s, early 60s, several episodes of this science fiction fun program have to do with time. And those, by no coincidence, I have to think, are my favorites. They're so good, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they're my favorite episodes in the series, in the whole program. And the reason I say that is, so you have, for example, the first episode, one of, if not the very first episode I ever saw, so good. It's such a brilliant episode. It might be my favorite. There's a World War One pilot, and he's flying in the skies during World War One, and he's British, and he is lost, and he sees this like mystic cloud thing. Well, he flies into it, and when he does that, where does he end up? He ends up in the current day, which is funny to say now, in 1962 or whatever, and he goes and lands in an American airbase. Well, by this time, current time, 1962 or whatever, airplanes are huge now. They're passenger airplanes, they're luxury airplanes. These airplanes they can hold 100 people or whatever. Whereas at his time, at 1917, that was not the case. Obviously, airplanes were not that advanced yet. So he's like, "Wow, what is up with you guys? You guys are really." You have a really advanced airbase in your country compared to ours. He has no idea what year it is. So he gets there, and he's confused, as you would be, and he's talking to the Americans, and they're like, "Sir, are you pulling a prank on us?" Because they don't believe him, because why would they believe him? And he's like, "No, listen, my name is Lieutenant Decker, and I'm from the Royal Flying Corps." And they're like, "Royal Flying Corps? That's not what it's called." And they explain how the name changed in such and such year. And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so it's funny. They confuse each other. What I like about this, though, is so he ends up, they find out the truth throughout the course of the episode, is that he wasn't flying and getting lost and going into this thing. No, he was a coward. That's why he went where he went and got lost. Unlike what he said originally. He said he just got, no, he fled battle and got lost. And so then they find out that's what happened. He wasn't some fighter pilot fighting the fight, trying to save his brothers in arms and everything. No, he was running away because he was, in his words, he was a coward. That's the truth, and he's not proud of it, and that's, he says, is what happened, that's what's going on. So, with all that being said, the guy he said he abandoned in the skies, that he failed to protect because he was a coward, he goes, yeah, that guy died. And the Americans are like, no, that guy, he's here. That guy is here right now. And he's on his way, he's flying in today. And he's like, no, he's not. He died. I know he died. He died in World War I in battle because I failed to protect him. And they're like, you're not listening to me, man. He is on his way here right now. He's alive and well. So you're wrong. And he's like, no, I'm not wrong. I know he died. So they end up having an argument and disagreements about it. Well, he thinks he solves it. The World War I pilot, he goes, Lieutenant Decker goes, wait a minute, I have it all figured out. Maybe I need to go up in that mystic cloud again and go back in time to save him. And they're not listening to him at this point. They're like, yeah, you know what? No, you're crazy, man. You're absolutely crazy. When he gets here, you guys can talk it out and explain it, and I'm sure everything's going to be fine, and he'll have a reasonable explanation, as if there's a reasonable explanation for any of this. And he ends up, Lieutenant Decker, he ends up punching the guy and knocking him out, and then running onto the airbase, getting his plane, on his World War I plane. He flies up, he goes into that mystic cloud, And then out of that mystic cloud, the guy that he said died lands his airplane in modern day. And he's really old now. And they ask him about Lieutenant Decker, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I remember Lieutenant Decker." He goes, "That man died saving my life." And then the two guys are really confused. They're looking at each other like, "He died saving your life?" He goes, "We just met him." Like, then the whole thing gets explained and confused. So they basically he got to go forward in time and then back in time and then change his future, but also change his entire legacy as a person. So he was no longer a coward. He was a hero who saved somebody. And so it creates a wonderful story and a change of, a good message to, like, hey, if you're a good person, then in the future you could be recognized as that and things like that. So I like this one. What did you guys think? Have you seen this one? It's a good one. I liked it. It's pretty good. And there's another one where there's a pilot on an airplane and there's a full deck of passengers. They experience turbulence and they keep going back in time. So far back, at one point, they even see a dinosaur. Yes, a dinosaur. It's hilarious. And they don't understand why, but they don't want to panic the passengers. And eventually, they decide to do the hard thing and tell the passengers, and it becomes a big ordeal. And very entertaining. It's a good one. Um, Not too much to say about it, but just, I don't know, it's pretty good. I like that one. Um, there's a classic one. I think everybody's seen this one. A guy gets a stopwatch. This is a guy, McNulty, that's his name. This is a guy so annoying, he never stops talking, and he annoys everybody. Everybody is sick of this guy. He thinks he's a know-it-all. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. He thinks that he has all these brilliant ideas, and if people would just listen to him, they would whatever. And he 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 gets into he meets this stranger at a bar. He gives him an antique stopwatch. He finds out this stopwatch stops time except for himself, but everything else stops. Okay, so he takes advantage of that. He stops time. He maneuvers people and gets them into funky, crazy situations. He stops time so he could go up close and see this crazy play at a Major League Baseball game happen, where he can get very up close and see everything happen and stuff. So it's a crazy kind of crazy event. It's not too dark of an episode, but there's one thing I want to just ask really quick. I've seen this pop up because there's other movies that have done this too. This isn't a movie. This is Twilight Zone, but there's movies and shows that have done stuff like this too. Hypothetically, I have to ask, of course, but somebody's going to say, wait, if you stop time, how does that work? Is it just you and the watch are the only things not stopped? Is oxygen stopped? Is your blood flow stopped? Is the sun's ultraviolet rays that we depend on stopped? Etc. It can turn into a really deep philosophical conversation, which I find fascinating. I think that's cool to be literal about it. And then it's like, if you were holding someone's hand, does that person not stop like everyone else? And it's fun to speculate and stuff. Like, what does that mean? What do you think? Now, I don't know. I have to assume, because it's science fiction, that if time is stopped, that means it's not like you can't breathe, because in order to breathe, time has to be existing, right? Time has to be going by, because it's only when you run out of breath, when you die or pass out, and that happens through time, right? In time, if you hold your breath, you'll pass out, right? So, like, am I weird to say that because it's science fiction anyway, it's not real, but like that doesn't mean oxygen stops too? I don't know. But so by the end of this episode, brilliant ending. It's not the best episode, I'm not going to pretend, but it has a brilliant ending. McNulty's trying to make friends by showing them the stopwatch. And he even explains the stopwatch. Nobody believes him, because why would they? It's a stupid thing to assume, because nobody today would think that either. If I said that to you, you would laugh at me or ignore me, because that sounds stupid. But he ends up doing it, and still he doesn't get all these friends and people to love him and listen to him. They still yell at him and tell him to shut up, and they hate him, and he drives people out of the bar. It's like the gag of the episode. The running gag is he goes to the bar, he talks to people, people leave the bar, and the bar owner begs them to stay, and it's just funny. And so he what he ends up doing, he robs a bank. He uses stopwatch at the bank. He opens the safe, he opens the vault or whatever, and he grabs cash. He pushes the cart around with the money, so he's about to make it big and make a steal. And then when he goes to resume time, the stopwatch slips, falls, and breaks. And then time stops permanently. He can't fix the watch. So he can move. Nobody else in the entire universe can move. Its time has stopped. Now, forever. And he's telling people, even though they can't hear him or witness him, he's telling them to their faces, he's so sorry, and I didn't mean anything by it, and please, you can yell at me again. I am so sorry. I'm sorry I was annoying. So he starts to have regrets. He starts to finally realize he's not this perfect know-it-all guy that he sees himself as. He starts to realize his flaws, and that's kind of like the moment that I like about it is he's actually sorry. And so I liked how that one ended. It was good. Now the last one, the one in the Twilight Zone that really pushed it for me. This episode is right in the first season, and when I saw this episode, oh no, there's two more I got to talk about. Okay, hold up. I just remembered. No, there's two more. Okay, I'll save the other. This one does time in a different way. This one is really creepy, in my opinion. No, crap, there's two. No, there is two more. Three more. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to do it like this. Sorry I'm being annoying. That's how my memory works when I'm tired and I'm working at the same time. I'm doing some yard labor while I record this. Anyways, so, okay, one episode. There's an old couple. These are old people. Okay, and this old man is a cab driver, and he had an affair. And his very angry, very bitter wife knows it. He's denying it. He says she's crazy and she's just making it up and she's just talking trash and she needs to let it go and stuff. It's not true and whatever. But she knows better, so she's constantly hounding him and insulting him. Now, look, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but it does creep me out. I don't know why. I don't know, man. It's just something creepy about living in a very, very, very small, compact apartment like that with just those two, and those two hate each other so much. Something about that just absolutely creeps me out. Give me 1 second. I'm taking a drink here. Sorry about that. I'm just thirsty. So what ends up happening is they need to get the television set fixed because he wants to watch wrestling. And so this guy that does the television set, he's actually a famous actor, which is kind of cool. He ends up fixing it, but he does his own special fix, whatever that means. And he tells him about Channel 10. And so the old man and of the group, couple, he goes to the Channel 10 and he sees a vision of something that's about to happen in his own apartment, in his own room. And he's like, what? And he's trying to tell his wife about it, and not only is she not listening to him, but she's making fun of him for sounding like a complete idiot and a complete just wacko. And he ends up acting out that thing that he sees on the TV. So it's like, whoa, it happened. Then it gets more intense. And I can't believe this was allowed in a show from the early 60s. It just shocks me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just unaware that maybe there was more of this content at the time and I just didn't know. But for a show in the early 60s, there's an entire fight scene. Yes, I'm going to say that again. An entire fight scene. Yes, a fight scene between man and wife when he's trying to kill her. and she's like yelling and screaming in his face, and I mean screaming in his face, like basically antagonizing him to do it, and he punches her, he punches the wall, and a picture frame falls down, he's got blood on his hand, he breaks a chair over his wife's back. You can't make this up. Like, it's absolutely insane. And it's not funny. There's nothing funny about that in real life. But it's funny only to me in the sense of this was the 60s, the early 60s, and they could show stuff like this. It was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe this was a thing. I couldn't believe this was allowed. I couldn't believe this wasn't censored more or whatever. As far as I know, there's only one censored Twilight Zone episode, as far as I know. It's called The Encounter. And I have that episode too. It's a great episode. Amazing acting in that episode. But I'm getting off track. But I'm like, how could they show that? Like, I don't know. Is that just me? Am I the only one shocked about that? But anyways, so in the vision he sees, not the vision, in the television channel that he watches, she can never see what he sees. He's saying, how do you look at this TV and how are you not creeped out that you're seeing the visions of stuff that I'm doing in this room? And she's like, there's nothing on the TV, and she's like angrily yelling at him again and stuff. So it's a really creepy episode, and he sees the vision of it happening, and then because she screams in his face eventually and really gets him very angry and very, very pissed off, he acts out the action that he sees on the TV, and he ends up murdering her. He actually murders her. It's like, oh my... I was like, I couldn't believe I watched this episode the first time. I'm telling you that my jaw was on the floor. I was like, I can't believe this is on TV. And so he murders her, and then the next thing he sees on the television is him in front of the judge in the courtroom, and he's either sentenced to death or sentenced to life or whatever. One of the worst ones, one of the two. And he sees it, and he's like crying, and then the police show up, and then the cable guy that made the TV do that shows up at the last second. And it's like, wow. Now, this episode would have just been a whatever episode, but the fact that it incorporated seeing events of time in the future is what enhanced it, which goes to the point of this discussion that we're having. Does time enhance things? It definitely does in the examples I'm listing for me, because otherwise I wouldn't be listing them. Does it for you, if you've seen these examples? Just incredible. Like, does this mean predestination in the sense of the episode? I'm not talking about real life. In the sense of the episode, does that mean it was predestined to happen, whether he saw that on the TV or not, kind of thing? Or is it only because he saw that on the TV that it was going to happen? Because it started the conversation later, kind of like a paradox. So just interesting stuff that I think about. I love discussing with people. Okay, the next Twilight Zone episode. This one's debatably my favorite one. This is in the first season. This one came out of nowhere, and I really liked it. It's called Walking Distance. There's a man in current day, which is 1960, I think, in the episode, and he is stopping by his hometown near it, and he hasn't been there in a long time, decades. And he's filling up gas in his car, and he decides to just go for a walk. So he goes to walk to the town he grew up in. When he gets there, and as soon as he asks the guy at the milkshake counter or whatever for a milkshake, and it's only a nickel, he's like, what? It's like a nickel. Is there a sale or something? Like how is it only a nickel? And he's like, that's what it's always been. So he's like confused. And then he looks around and sees everybody is all in primitive 1935, dresses and clothing and vehicles. And he's like, whoa, what is going on? So he finds out somehow when he walked from that gas station to his old town, he ended up going back in time to when he was a kid in that town. Okay, so he does that. Then he gets very confused. he actually sees himself. Yes, he sees himself. He sees the child version of him. He sees himself as the child version of himself playing at the playground or whatever and climbing up trees and stuff that he did in 1935 when he was a kid. And then he's really confused. He goes, "That's me. Whoa." Like, it starts to hit him like I actually went back in time. But isn't it weird? So in this example, okay, of time, back to the subject of this video I'm making, this discussion, he ends up going back in time. Because he did that, though, it didn't alter time unless he is there to alter it. So if he were to just watch everybody from a distance, I mean, that sounds creepy, but I'm just saying, if he were to watch everybody from a distance and to cause no changes, nothing would change. But he's directly getting involved. He is going to his parents' house. He knocks on the door. He sees them. They're young. They're like younger than him because he's in modern day 1960. So whatever age that 25 years later or whatever. So he's like their age. He's like his parents' age. He's like older than his parents basically. So it's kind of crazy, right? And he's trying to tell them, "I am your son. I'm your son." And they're like, "This guy is creepy. Get out of my house or I'm calling the police." And then he starts, I'm glad that he did this. He said things that can't be denied. He's like, "Listen, I am your son. I'll prove it. Here's my driver's license. I know I go to this such and such school. I know that every summer we go to my aunt, whatever her name's farm is, and I always tend the cattle there. We go to vacation at blah, blah, blah." And so he's giving them specifics so that they cannot deny that he's a lunatic. No, like he's showing them, "I am your son because I have his memories and I am him and his memories are my memories." So they're trying to explain it. And they don't care. They just are creeped out by this guy. "Get out of here." And they're threatening to call the police. His mom even smacks him at one point and everything. What he ends up doing, he chases his past self, his kid version of himself, around the Ferris wheel, the oh my gosh, the merry-go-round, not the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round at this fair or whatever. He's like screaming his name, "Martin, Martin, Martin." He's trying to tell him just one simple message. He's trying to tell him something. Well, as he's chasing him, it's his kid self falls off of the merry-go-round and injures his leg. When his leg gets injured, he himself, adult version, he gets his leg injured. So they're congruent. His kid self gets injured, he gets injured, and he now has a permanent limp in his leg because of the event that happened that he made happen. Okay, so he made it happen himself to himself, another version of himself in time. Very confusing, complex, but that's why I love the nature of these discussions. So he does that, and his dad ends up being my favorite part of the episode. It actually was an emotional part of the episode, and I give them so much props for doing a good job here. His dad, who's like younger than him a little bit, it's like crazy. His dad comes up to him and he said, "Hey, you dropped this back there," and he picks up his wallet that he dropped, and he's telling him, he goes, "You know what? I believe you. I do believe that you're my son. I do. I've been looking at this and everything." And he goes, "I'm glad you turned out okay, son." So it's a very emotional conversation. He basically says, "I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you turned out okay. I'm glad that you are a good man and you're successful and you've moved on and basically forgotten all about this little town and you're doing big things with your life. You've made it as a man." And it was kind of emotional. I'm not even gonna lie. It was kind of an emotional talk, a discussion talk, whatever, conversation. It was cool. And so he says all that, and then he says, "But listen to me. Listen here." He doesn't say it like this. He actually, because I'm going off of my memory. It's actually well done in the episode, unlike the butchering I'm doing now because I'm going off of my memory. He says, "Now listen, you You need to go, though. You need to leave, and you need to leave right now. Don't come back, because the thing is, I understand you miss your memories. You miss being a kid, and you miss us, and you miss this place. But you're not doing us any favors by coming here. This summer, this is his summer. Talking about the kid version of himself. This is his time to be a kid. Don't ruin it for him, and don't ruin it for us. He is what matters. We want him just to have a good summer, and we want him to have good memories. I don't want you to ruin it for him. And again, not in the way that I just butchered the actual dialogue they had. I'm horribly skimming and summarizing it. But he says that, and then he goes and walks back to his car. He gets gas, and then he goes back to the town again, and it's the year that it's supposed to be, actually, this time. Wow, okay, it's the 1960 or 1961 or whatever. It's actually the correct year, and milkshakes are the proper price of 35 cents or 50 cents or whatever the heck it was, I forget. But it was it was right. So he experienced something crazy, and he did change the timeline because he now has a permanent limp in his leg based on what he ended up doing to his own younger self by chasing him, trying to tell him, please, I just wanted to tell you one thing. Enjoy the moment. It won't last forever. Enjoy being a kid. It was a good episode. I really liked it. That's just my opinion. Okay, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe this episode you thought was corny and boring and uneventful, or something. Maybe I'm way off. That's okay. We can have different opinions, man. I'm simply saying that's how I feel about it. It connected with me for some reason. I really appreciated the dialogue in this, and it felt deep. It did, to me, anyway. I'm just one man. I have flaws. Okay. All right. Then the last Twilight Zone episode I'll talk about that has to do with time. There's more episodes that deal with time, but one that's worth mentioning, and make that clear, that I feel like it's worth mentioning that has to do with time. It's called The Most Unusual Camera. This episode, well, good. It's not as good as it could have been, but it was good enough that I saw it and I liked it. Okay, similar to the other episode we discussed, this one, they find this camera in something. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was an auction or they stole it or something. There's a husband and wife who's criminals, just scam artists or whatever. They get this funky looking camera. Well, he takes a picture of his wife in the corner because she's standing in the corner in front of the window. She says, "Hey, take my picture." So he takes a picture, and it ends up when the picture prints out of the machine. It's her, but it's not what she's wearing. It's something else. It's this furry coat thing. And they're like, how is that possible? I'm not even wearing that. Is this some kind of a gag camera where it makes jokes or something? Like, how does that happen? And then as they're looking into all the items in the box, she finds that fur coat. She puts it on. She walks over to the corner of the room in front of the window. She starts posing. And then the husband's like, are you nuts? Like, now you're doing the pose that the picture just showed you doing. And she's like, oh crap, you're right. How did that happen? Whatever. Then she finds out her brother, no, she doesn't find out her brother. Her brother broke out of prison. It's just a whole family of criminals and scammers. Well, she doesn't know that he broke out of prison, but he broke out of prison, and they take a picture of the front door, and the front door picture that comes out of the camera shows her brother walking in through the front door. And they're like, that's your brother. And she's like, well, it can't be. My brother's in prison right now. How could that be my brother? That doesn't make sense. And how would the camera know what he looks like or whatever? Sure enough, her brother comes into their apartment and he's like talking to them, and they realize, oh my God, this camera takes a picture 6 minutes or whatever it is, I can't remember, in advance. Maybe it's 2 minutes in advance. I can't remember. 1 minute? Maybe it's 60 seconds in advance. Something. But it takes a picture in advance every single time. So because of that, they cynically realize, the three of them, they can make serious money by doing this. So what they do is they go to the horse racing track where they gamble. They take a picture of the scoreboard. Then when their camera prints out the picture, it shows the scoreboard. It shows exactly what horses landed at which place in the race and in order and all that, because that's what it would show in the real thing. And they go, oh my God, we're going to make a fortune. So they start taking the pictures, which show them an advanced picture ahead of time of the future, and then they bet big money on first place, second place, third place, and in the correct order, obviously, which is how you would make the most money in horse racing, theoretically. So they do that. They make a serious fortune, and then as conflicts get worse and they start running out of pictures to take in the camera, they take a picture of something and they see like crime scene tape and stuff in their apartment area, and they're like, oh crap, so something crazy is about to happen. But I like that they show you it's about to go wrong, and then you just have to watch and see what it is that happens to make it go horribly wrong, and people die and everything. Like, it's insane, but it's brilliant at the same time. And it brings up that discussion. Is it because of the element of time that enhances this episode? To me, it is. To me, that 100% is. I think that is intriguing, because what would we do with it? Would we be evil with it? Would we be prosperous with it? Or would we find this type of technology so disgusting we would destroy it and never to speak of it again, not to learn from it, but to get rid of it? It's just an interesting moral discussion. What would we do if we thought we could prevent lives from being destroyed or something by using it somehow? I don't know. Then keep it. But it's just an interesting discussion. Now, the reason I mentioned this episode last, because it ties in to a movie that I wanted to talk about. The movie is Time Lapse. This movie from 2015. Independent movie, super underrated movie in my personal opinion. I really love this movie. Phenomenal acting by everybody. Very raw take, raw feel. It's rated R, completely R. Like there's certain movies that are rated R and you could never have it rated something else. That's one of these movies. This right here, Time Lapse, because it's gritty, it's brutal, it's sincere, and it's honest. And so because of that, what they end up doing with this movie is they take somebody ends up passing out or dying, excuse me. They fall down, one of their tenants, because they're landlords. There's a boyfriend, there's my dog barking. There's a boyfriend, girlfriend that live together, and what they end up doing is they find out that one of their tenants has passed on, and they don't understand why, so there's some kind of a problem. So what they end up doing is they they go over and look at their place, and they find something. There's this wall of photos, and what is in this wall of photos? Well, in this wall of photos ends up being a complete. It increases the mystery to them, because what it ends up being is it's pictures of their own room. And so because it's their own room, is this person that passed away, this old man across the courtyard or whatever, are they stalking them? Are they perverts? Are they trying to catch them in intimate acts? Or like, what are they doing? So they don't know. They don't understand this. So they're very confused. They're very kind of freaked out or whatever, until they are standing there, and guess what happens? The camera goes off by itself. And when it goes off by itself, they look at the camera, and what comes out of the camera is a Polaroid picture, and it's not what they're looking across their room seeing, because they're in the picture. So like, wait a minute, obviously it couldn't be live, because if it was, they would see themselves, right? Yes, obviously. Because they don't see, because they see themselves and they are standing next to the camera, not across in another building where the camera's pointed. They know this is showing something else. So they're like, no way, what is going on here? This is taking, they figure out, obviously, that it takes a picture of the future. So similar to that Twilight Zone episode, but this is not portable. This is a massive machine, almost like the size of a car or something, right? So what this one does, it takes a picture of the future, something that hasn't happened yet, and it does it once a day. I think it was, if my memory is right, like 7 p.m. or something. So they go, okay, this is really creepy, because look at all these people in our room right there. There's like 20 people in there, and they're all dancing and drunk and stuff. Why is that happening? Well, because the one of the main guys, Jasper, his name is, he was planning a party the whole time. Like, this isn't secret. He was having a party going to happen, and so they're like, well, we'll have to talk about this later. We need to have this party happen. So they don't report the body. It's really gross. They just let this corpse stay in there or whatever. And when they talk with the girlfriend, then they bring her over and everything, and they look at it, and they realize that, wow, it really did take a picture of that exact moment in time, but in the future. Like it because of the how much forward, how many hours forward it takes it. So again, similar to the Twilight Zone episode, but not that quick. It's actually an hour's difference, not just a few seconds or whatever. And so when they look at it, they disgustingly, like cynically again, realize, well, we're going to do this. We're going to use this in an evil way to make us rich. So horse racing, again, another, funny enough, a very similar thing, or it might have been dog racing. Actually, that's irrelevant. But gambling, same thing, where the main guy, Jasper, he makes his bets. He writes down on a piece of paper he has the thought that this is what I will do, is use it for gambling, so I know who the winners are before they play and race, and then I'll write them down. I'll put a piece of paper and write it with the names in the right order and put it on the window where the camera's going to take the picture. And then that's exactly what happens. So he doesn't even know it happened, but it happened. And then at the time when the camera flashes, he is actually standing in front of the window with that piece of paper with the things on it, because they believe you have to match that for it to be correct. So they keep doing that. They keep matching it to make it correct, so that no matter what, they can keep this scam up. And they even are so sick, they cynically realize, like, well, at one point, somebody's going to, like, catch on that somebody died, and then they're going to take this stuff away or whatever, or figure out what we're doing. So they end up pretending he's not dead. And they pick up his mail for him, and they pay his rent for him, just secretly or whatever, and it's just like, oh my God, it's crazy. Well, eventually, this is where the film really kicks up, and it's one of my favorite intense moments in film. Period. They really did a great job. The acting was incredible with just the few people in this movie. They nailed it. They end up looking at one of the pictures, and they see a silhouette of somebody else. It's not one of them. Okay, that's creepy. That is not good. And the film really takes a brilliant turn there, and now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, what do we do now? We have to do what's in the picture, but somebody is there. We don't know who it is, and it's creepy. Now, all of a sudden, the film turns into horror, and it's scary, and it's suspenseful, or whatever. Okay, then the next, I don't know if it was the very next or something, one of the next pictures is really creepy. It's so good, though. They look at it, and they know that this is what's going to happen in a few hours, so they have to do whatever. And it's a rushed... I forgot to mention, one of the boyfriend in the group is a painter, so you always see his canvas in the pictures that are taken. His canvas stack or whatever is always on the right side of the pictures. Well, this time, instead of painting something cool, like whatever, like some abstract fun thing, he paints a skull and bones, and it looks rushed. It looks like he didn't even have time to finish it. And the faces of the main characters look disheveled. They look like something's wrong. And as they look at that picture, they agree something is wrong. Something is not right. This is not okay. I don't know what's going on. And they end up saying, you know what? I think you were trying to send us a warning when you painted that skull and bones. So the time itself ends up making them horribly like frantic and stressed out more than you can comprehend, like horribly stressed out, freaked out, and just ruined in a way. Just it's not going well. It is falling apart. And so because of that, things go on. I don't want to give everything away, but well, I am going to spoil a little bit here. I am going to spoil major spoilers. I have to though. But then this happens, okay? So they end up again with everything going wrong. They end up killing the people that have been stalking them because those people have realized that they have a source that has been giving them the winning horses or dog numbers or whatever and giving them untold thousands of dollars, and they're sick of it. They're sick of being ripped off. They want in on the action. They want, 50% of the take or whatever. So they end up killing them. They end up trapping and killing them. And what ends up happening then is the boyfriend gets up early, and I'm skipping another great element to that. I'm not going to say it though. But anyway, the boyfriend ends up getting up a little bit earlier than normal, and this time it's 7 a.m., not 7 p.m., and he catches his girlfriend with a piece of paper on the window, and when he does that, he sees the camera flash, and that completely changes the film. And he goes, "Did that just take a picture?" And the girlfriend freaks out, and she goes, I can explain, like it's everything's okay." And when this happens, she explains to him the camera doesn't take one picture a day, it takes 2 pictures a day. She has just been hiding the first picture every day, so she is the only one out of everybody in the movie that knows it takes 2 futuristic pictures every day, and she's used that knowledge to help her. And what has it been helping her doing? It has been helping her get closer to her boyfriend because they haven't been getting as close as she wants them to. They haven't been as close as she feels they should be. They haven't been accelerating in the relationship the way that they should be. And she has been trying to figure out how to get him to wake up and be more of a man about it and whatever, in her perspective, of course. And so he finds out that there was pictures earlier that caused a big fight between the 3 of them where they showed her having an affair with the other guy, not the boyfriend, not the painter, the other guy, Jasper, the criminal mastermind of the 3 of them. She found those pictures of them having an affair. Well, they thought they were new pictures. They weren't. They were old pictures from months ago. So this affair wasn't a new affair that just happened. They were very old. But they didn't know that until the boyfriends caught her at the window at 7 a.m. and realized it takes 2 pictures and not 1. And then she explained she even switched old pictures for new ones so that she could, if she was the only one in the room, and she could get away with that because who would know the difference, right? And she explained that, and she used that to her advantage. And she was telling them, okay, I can explain. I wanted you to do something. Okay, now, I'm saying this out of order. That's why I shouldn't have spoiled this at all, but I screwed it up. But here's the thing. So, anyways, Jasper gets so paranoid at this point that someone is going to snitch that he ends up knocking out and tying up the boyfriend in the other room, and he's going to kill him. And what ends up happening is he breaks out of the ropes and tape and stuff that has him subdued, and he grabs a bucket of water he calls Jasper from across the window, and he puts a bucket of water over the camera, and he threatens to destroy it if he doesn't get him his girlfriend back and whatever. And he goes, give her the gun or else I'm gonna pour it. I'm gonna ruin your moneymaker. So they have a major falling out. He gives her the gun, so now she has the gun, and then she points the gun at Jasper. Then the boyfriend puts the bucket of water down. He plans on leaving with her, getting out of the situation. Now, freeze. This is what they should have done a long time ago. When they see people are coming to kill them, when they see how horribly frantic and anxious they look, they should have left. They should have got out of the game. They should have moved. They should have moved on. They should have gotten out of there and figured something else out to do in life. Instead, they wanted to match the picture every time. So again, goes with the deep thought about this. What if they didn't try to match the picture? What would happen then? What if they tempted fate? What if they don't match the picture? And what if they left? What if they went to Canada that day? You know what I mean? Like they went way out of there. What would happen? Well, we never know because they always end up matching the picture. But so he does that, right? When he comes over, Jasper has a hidden weapon. It's not a gun, but he starts attacking the boyfriend guy. I feel stupid. I can't remember his name for some reason. But he ends up attacking him. The girlfriend saves him and ends up killing Jasper. Okay, so now Jasper's dead. Okay, and this is when the boyfriend finds out that the camera takes another picture. She puts an ice pack on his head, tells him to go lay down and everything will be okay and stuff, and don't worry about it, I'll clean up the blood and everything. Like, it gets creepy and dark, but then when he lays down, he can't lay down because something didn't make sense to him. He sees a picture that fell, and he goes, that's an old picture, why is this here? Like, it's like, what happened? And then he sees the camera take a picture at 7 a.m. instead of p.m. So he catches on. She explains, yes, it takes 2 a day. I didn't tell anybody because I wanted to take advantage of it. I wanted you to be a man, and today you did it. You proved to me you could be a man, whatever. And when he realizes that she lied about all that and everything, and how creepy she's being, he decides he's done. He's breaking up with her. He doesn't want anything to do with her. So he says it, even in a nice way. She kills him. She actually kills him too. And she says to herself, it's okay, none of this will matter tomorrow. And she picks up the paper that says, don't get caught by the window. Because that's the last picture in the movie. Don't get caught by the window. And so since she has to match the picture at 7 a.m., she stands at the window holding that picture. She thinks somehow in her mind, she thinks she understands what it means. It means if you don't get caught by the window, then nothing bad will happen. So he's going to revive somehow, and the relationship's going to be fixed like it was starting to be. That's what she thinks. Well, who ends up being at the window, I'm spoiling this whole movie now, I'm sorry, but you got to see it. Who ends up being at the window is a police officer coming back to investigate something else that happened earlier in the movie, unrelated. And he sees that sign, don't get caught by the window, and realizes there's blood everywhere. Like, she just committed like a double homicide, and then he arrests her, and at the last moment you can kind of see her realize it didn't mean what she thought it meant. Don't get caught by the window has nothing to do with her boyfriend, so she didn't need to kill him anyway. It meant the police officer was going to see her, and then her whole life is going to be ruined. She's going to go to prison forever, and blah, blah. So it ends up going crazy. So time directly made this movie, to me, an amazing film. I love this film. It's dark. It's gritty. It is brutally honest. There are sick people like this. Brutally honest. There are people like this, man. I hate to say it. But there is people like this who would kill somebody to get rich and think nothing of it and probably sleep better at night with just tons of pills in their apartment. There's people like this. And so this movie takes that, uses time that it thinks it's going to help them, but it ends up ruining them at the end. Now, again, the deep discussion question here is, would that have changed anything? If they said, nope, I'm not with this plan, I don't want to do this, then would it change anything? No, yes, I don't know. Man, it's so interesting. So if they wouldn't have matched those pictures on purpose, would that have changed the timeline? Would nothing have changed? Who knows? I don't know. We will never know. We would have to ask the director of the movie, I guess. But so, very good, brilliant movie. I loved it. It was awesome. Great use of time. So, all right, the last example I want to say of time, I'm gonna say very random, but a video game example. There's a video game called Sifu. It came out in 2021. It's a beat 'em up kung fu game. I own it. It's a good game. So you start at age 20. When you play through the story, every time you die, you age a few years when you respawn. So you might respawn as a 22-year-old, you might respawn as a 27-year-old, all the way up to 70. That's as old as you can get. If you die at 70, you're over. The game's done. And you just have to start over. But as you get older, you actually get stronger, you do more damage, but your physically movements are slower, and your reactions are slower. I just thought that was an interesting take on time. It's not directly, highlighting time, but it is just an interesting element that I think adds some dynamic mechanics to the game. And the last thing I'll say about time, I'm going to use my own example, but in my book, my most successful book, World's Worst Murder Detective 2, Laws Stand Found, by me, Adam Stark, I implemented something into one of my absurd courtroom trials, a very hilarious scene, but I end up using real research in it, just to amplify the absurdity. But there was research done by a Dr. Janet something, I can't remember their name. They discovered something interesting. Does time go faster as you get older? And the answer is yes. Now, of course, you're going to say, no, it doesn't, because 1 second is always 1 second, 1 minute is always 60 seconds, 1 hour is always 60 minutes, 1 year is always 365 days. So what in the world are you talking about? What do you mean time goes by faster when you get older? Well, it depends on how you look at it. See, Dr. Janet's research shows that it does go faster because of this. Let's assume, for time's sake, for example, your cognitive memory starts at age 5. I'm not saying it does, but let's just pretend it does. Assume it does, because that makes the math easy. Okay, starting at age 5, you have memories. Okay, when you're 5 years old, how long is a year? Now, if you're thinking in linear terms, you're going to say 365 days. That's a year. But, hold on a second. What does that mean, as far as Janet's research shows? Is it as a fraction or a percentage of your life? From age 5 to age 6, 1 year, that is 1/5 of your life, or 20% of your life. Whoa, 20%? 1/5? That's a big chunk of your life, isn't it? Yes, it is, at that age, right? So what happens when you're 60? So when you're 60, 1 year of time, how much is that? Well, it'd be 1/60th as a fraction, or whatever in the world 1 divided by 60 is, I don't know. But that is a very tiny amount of time compared to all the time you have experienced. So the point being, what is 1 year to somebody that's already experienced so many of them? 60 of them, 70 of them, etc. It's not much. So if you do it in a mathematical sense, time does go by faster because you've already experienced it so many times that it's second nature to you. You're familiar with it. It goes by fast. So I actually implemented that into my book as a hilarious way for my lawyer to argue something. And again, it just shows time always has something interesting to show us. I think it enhances movies, enhances TV shows. There's been so many examples. There's still examples out there I didn't mention. There's still stuff I haven't seen. There's parallel universe examples that can somewhat do with time as an element of it. There's things like the Star Trek movie from 2009 where Spock ends up having an alternate timeline. There's movies with alternate timelines, right? Where Spock has an alternate timeline where he did something and he was putting this red matter into the universe and it was trying to destroy something, but it ended up destroying something else in the other timeline of Spock, and then they travel back in time to kill him and whatever. So it changes everything based on something you didn't even know was going on because it happened without your knowledge of it, and you couldn't have had knowledge of it because it was an alternate timeline. But then the timelines merge. And sometimes, when you look up research of this, I've seen people say, you cannot run into yourself in an alternate universe or time would explode itself, and all these crazy, incredible theories and stuff. And then I see time get used in a stupid way, like in that dumb Superman movie. I hate all superhero movies anyway, so this isn't a surprise coming from me, to be fair. But there was a Superman movie where his lover Lois Lane dies or something, so he goes super speed. He spins the Earth backwards, and somehow that makes time go backwards. How would that make time go backwards? Wouldn't that just cause a tsunami or something and a bunch of wind? It doesn't make any sense. Some stuff I can't stand. But anyways, I want to know, people, what are your thoughts on time in movies, TV shows, video games as well? Video games, when it comes to time, I will say what I like is you got some things like, obviously, in a simple sense, some video games have a theater mode where you can watch replays of your games, matches, or whatever, and you can do fast forward, rewind, or slow motion. Some games have slow motion in their combat. Some games show a final replay of the final play, but they show it in slow motion as opposed to normal motion, which allows you to see things you wouldn't normally see and experience, because when you're in the moment, you can only focus on so much on your screen and stuff. And, so stuff like that. What do you think? I love slow motion in video games. I think that's an amazing feature. I think that's a fun thing. There's something so satisfying about it. It allows you to line up these beyond belief, crazy headshots and stuff that you couldn't normally be able to do in a likelihood sense. I'm saying you normally wouldn't be able to do, but because of that slow motion button, you can pull off some amazing maneuvers. Games like Max Payne, Matrix, Path of Neo, F.E.A.R, Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, there's so many examples. And Blinx the Time Sweeper. Just fun stuff. But what do you think? Does time make things better when it's a specific element that you can change? What do you think? Do you think so? Do you think I'm way off? Do you think it's a secondary thing that I'm focusing on too much that doesn't actually matter? I don't know. I want to hear your opinions. Me personally, I think it enhances the experience. But alright, thank you everybody for listening. I can't wait to hear a discussion with all of you. And let's talk about it. Tell me more examples. Tell me more movies I have not seen and TV show episodes I have not seen that I should take a look into. Like I saw one the other day. JFK. It was a TV show. It's not a political show, but it was a TV show about a science fiction show, and they ended up went back in time, and they found JFK when he was a little kid. Not a little kid. He was in college, and they brought him to the modern day, like 2016 or whatever, and they were telling him all this cool things he's going to do in the future and everything. And when they found a way to send him back in time, and they warned him never to go to Houston, so they told him the wrong city, and he ended up going to Dallas because that's where he gets assassinated in real life. And so then the guy's mad at himself. He goes, "Why did I say Houston?" I don't know. I don't know. I love stuff like this, but I want to hear everybody's opinion. So let's talk about it. Let's have some fun, and recommend me some more. I'd love to watch some more stuff. I'd love to see it. So thank you all.